Welcome to Tea for the Soul, a podcast for teachers and healers. Whether you are listening to this as you drive to work, take a walk, or brew some tea, or whether you incorporate this into teacher support groups, professional development with faculty, or academic conferences, I hope this self-care toolkit can ground you in a deeper sense of yourself and how you can be transformed by and transform the settings in which you work. Today's reflection comes out of conversations with 3 teacher healers that are in the process of self-actualization and who are walking alongside students on that same journey. Today is Thursday. Sometimes this can feel like the hardest day of the week, with things piled on and some heavy lifting in the classroom. Think about the role of tea with meals. It helps us digest what we have eaten. In the same vein, I hope that this reflection can nourish you and help you digest what is going on in places of resistance. As one educator has shared, I understand resistance as a natural part of learning, especially when you're being asked to step into an unknown and uncertainty. As teachers, we may be very familiar with our material, but remember, this is all new for students. So, rather than blaming students for their resistance, what if we explored with them? What is their resistance about, and how can we use it and learn from it so that we can eventually move through it? As mentioned in yesterday's reflection, sometimes it's not helpful to push people who've had trauma or to challenge them beyond what they're capable of until they feel safe enough to let the walls down, and then we can move together. What is of utmost importance is that we see our students as fully human. One educator said about the students who did not do well in his class, "I love those students because they're really interesting people. They might fail my class, but I'm going to, for lack of a better word, I'm going to love another human being because they're a human being, right?" As we mentioned in Tuesday's reflection, optimal learning happens in a balance of nurture and challenge. So at the same time that we show unconditional positive regard for our students, this is a phrase coined by psychologist Carl Rogers, we also don't give up in helping them achieve their learning goals. One educator shared about a particular student whose brain was wired very differently from hers and from her way of teaching. I just kept working with where he was and realized, no, his brain just doesn't work this way. He's not learning. I'm not going to force him into something that's not working for him. So I just adapted the approach. She had to be willing to meet him where he was and to work with, rather than against, his learning style. She shared that this was a constructive process. If I can get to the point of recognizing what's actually really useful for a person, then the integration of learning can happen. Working with students' learning preferences does not mean that we do not challenge them to think differently, particularly when what they are doing is not working. Another educator puts it this way: instead of being bound by certain unhealthy patterns, is there a different way to relate with whatever it is that might be limiting a person? This goes for both the teacher and the student. Think now about one particular student that you can learn more about. This can be someone who rubs you the wrong way or that you struggle to understand. As educators, we like the feeling of getting our points across to students. It can be challenging, sometimes demoralizing, when we feel like we have failed to teach well. How might the theme you picked at the beginning of the week help you to reframe your relationship with this student? What can the student teach you about themselves and their learning needs? Congratulate yourself on doing the hard work of reflection and self-care. Have a good Thursday.